I am sure that most of us woke up this morning, looked at the calendar, and thought, it's Ascension Day. I'm so excited. This is one of those inside jobs, if you will. And if after hearing the readings, you're living with the hope that I'm going to explain what happened, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I can't. This is one of those days where we hear or read the story that we can't explain. Was it written by a long ago author, evangelist, disciple, hoping that it would make sense to the people who had been present? I'm going to try to explain what happened. Some time had passed. And when I think about what ascension might mean to us, and why it's important for us to note it, many things come to mind. I realized that last Sunday, if you were here, we heard the word rise, let us be on our way. So this might be Rise 2.0, because it's time to rise and be on our way in the way ascension teaches us. We've traditionally thought of Luke and Acts being written by the same author. So why are there two versions of this story? In the book of Acts, we have these two mysterious men who stand by the disciples and say, "Why are you looking up at heaven? Why are you just gazing?" That didn't happen in the story we heard from Luke. And I appreciated so much Susan's emphasis on a couple of those passages. Because rather than trying to explain away ascension or thinking about the anticipatory nature of a second coming faith, which many people use this for that, I want to focus on three aspects of this story. What it means to consider that Jesus was no longer physically present, but the Spirit of Christ came upon the disciples. He opened their minds to understand. For 3 years, a group of disciples, of followers, had been walking, eating, working, worshiping, sleeping, facing tension and danger. For 3 years, they had been listening to Jesus tell stories and parables and talk to people that were seen as other than, and they'd been saying, "We don't get it. What does that mean?" And he had been explaining it. And in this moment, he opened their minds to understand. They had an opportunity to take all of that in and begin to understand that without the physical presence of Jesus, the Spirit of Christ would be at work in them and through them. And they knew what to do. They knew what to teach. And they mostly knew what to expect. They'd had a front row seat for 3 years. And in those 3 years, he had sent them out before. Go out 2 by 2, go to towns, go to villages. If they welcome you, great. If they don't, wipe the dust off your feet and keep moving. And they would come back and report. And maybe they'd forgotten that at some point they knew what to do. But in this moment, they understood. Their minds had been opened, and they were no longer so heavenly minded that they were of no earthly good. They knew what to do. He opened their minds to justice and mercy when he told the parable of the sheep and goats, that we're supposed to see one another, to see the needs that are all around us, and not just see them, but to do something. When you do this for the least of these, you do it for me. He had opened their minds in the parable of the Good Samaritan that each person is a neighbor, someone worthy of consideration and respect. He opened their minds to see the value of children and young people. He opened their minds to see the mental health crisis that was referred to as demon possession. He opened their minds and their eyes and their ears and their hearts to see and know and hear the calling that was before them to continue the work. And on this Ascension Day, we acknowledge He is still opening our minds. He also told them to stay here until you've received power from on high, until you're clothed with power from on high. He didn't say how long it would be. He didn't tell them how they would know. He told them to wait. And His word let them know that they would not be on their own. Wait together until you have this power from on high. And in that, you would recognize the Spirit in one another, because maybe you don't see it in yourself, but somebody else says, I see the Spirit of Christ at work in you. So wait here, be in community, be united in that Spirit that is before us. Now, next Sunday, we're going to celebrate Pentecost and the arrival of the Spirit as promised, but our story tells us from the very beginning, the Spirit is in us, that God breathed life into God's people. That God breath, that Spirit in us is with us from our very first breath. That God breath is in our speech, our thoughts, our actions. And how would the world be different if we understood that it is God's breath within us when we speak? Would we weigh our words more carefully? Would we consider how we speak to one another and how we encourage others to speak? That God breath that is in every breath we take and how we breathe into the world. We're here together in this moment, and the Spirit of God is upon us, and we are taking that breath out into a world in need. It tells us then that He led them out as far as Bethany, which wasn't a very far distance, and that He blessed them. And as He was blessing them, He withdrew and was carried up into heaven. That's the part I can't explain. I don't know what that looked like. We heard from the psalm that God went up with a shout and with trumpets, and this feels quieter. But maybe it's as the disciples began to turn to one another, they saw in each other that they recognized the Christ that had been with them all along. Because what He gave them in that blessing was an empowerment, a giving over of the ministry to the next generation and the next and the next and to ours, and we'll give it to the next as well. His departure is described as being carried away, fading from their sight, but not from their hearts, not from their minds, not from their actions. And so what did they do? They went to work. The Ascension calls us to be the church in the Spirit of Christ. The Ascension tells us that we may not have a physical Christ or Jesus as they saw Him, but there is very much a body of Christ at work in the world. That did not depart. It did not leave. It is still very much here through each one of us, through you, through me, through all those who know. And if we miss that we are still the body of Christ at work in the world, and that we gather together to worship and to experience great joy and to be in the temple and the world around us blessing God, then maybe we need to read the ascension story a few more times. Because it's a gift that Jesus gave to his disciples to entrust them, to empower us to be about the work that is before us. Too many people use this story to think about, well, someday Jesus is coming for me and I'm just going to wait. That is not the ascension story. The ascension story is be the body of Christ. Be empowered to do the work you are called to do with the very breath of God that is within you, and open our minds to understand that we've been given every gift we need to go be the people of God in the world. It was at a time when Jesus was fully present with his friends, when he gave them another gift. He transformed a meal. He transformed an opportunity. He took something that they had always known and he changed it to empower them again to understand that they were the ones who would carry on the work. And so we gather at this table again, not at a table of the United Methodist Church, but rather at a table that belongs to God.